I listened to back in Zone a couple of years ago. Was blown away by his presentation. And when we were putting this together again, and I thought about the rock stars that I could bring to you guys. Andy obviously came up, and I'm thinking, no way he's going to, as busy as he is, going to put us in his schedule. And I'm just delighted that he did. So he's coming to us from Harrisonburg, Virginia. So that's another time zone, another area completely different. So we appreciate you coming in this morning. But Andy is co-founder of Appeal Production, which is a video marketing firm, like I said, based in Harrisonburg, Virginia. As you see, he was an assistant Rotary coordinator for Zone 33, and he's a past Rotary Club of Harrisonburg. And this is a really key when we listen to Andy. Andy believes when it comes to Rotary membership recruitment, we must remember our prospects' perspective, what they want from Rotary membership. Tell them story of our clubs and align them with a club that suits them best. And this may not be your club. I mean, so that's impactful as well. If you know somebody that would like to be a Rotarian, they don't fit in your club, there's other clubs that we can send them to. So when he's not helping craft a client story to inspire their business growth for work, you'll find him chest deep in a river with a fly rod in his hand, making up songs about his dogs or searching for the next great dad joke. So guys, again, I'm excited to turn it over to Andy for his presentation this morning on membership. Thank you again, Andy, for joining us.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for those kind words. I'm not quite sure I deserve all of them, but I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. And in the Harrisonburg time zone, it's also a few degrees cooler than it is in your time zone. I think it's now -37, since it's like Alaska over here. No, I'm kidding. It's not quite that cold. But anyway, good morning. Happy Saturday, everyone. I'm really appreciative that you're here because I know most people cherish their weekends and their Saturdays, and I'm excited that you've taken a little bit of time to dedicate this Saturday morning to Rotary and your upcoming presidential year. So congratulations on accepting that challenge. And I'm excited to be here to talk a little bit about membership today. Membership is one of those things that doesn't tend to be one of the sexier things that we talk about as Rotary presidents and or as Rotary Club members. We want to talk about the things we do in the community and who we serve and how we help and the impact that we're making upon the world. And often membership gets kind of pushed to the side because of all those other goals. And I'm going to walk through some things today, but I'm here to say that if we don't focus on membership and have that as the center point of our clubs, we won't be able to do those things in our communities that we want to. All right. So also, this is free form. I've got a presentation, but if you guys have questions at any point, you can throw them in the chat, raise your hand or whatever, and we can talk. Okay. I'm here to make this experience what you all want. I'll get through my presentation, but also if you guys want to talk about something a little bit different in terms of membership or ideas, let's make this time effective for you all. Okay. Good deal. Thumbs up. Go. All right. Let me share screen. All right. You got it? My name? Yes? All right, good deal. So that's me. We're going to talk about membership today. And here's our agenda. So we're going to talk about numbers. We're going to talk about attrition. We're going to talk about change. We're going to talk about engagement, and we're going to talk about a plan. A lot of times people want to talk, and when they talk memberships, like, oh, we're going to do a membership drive during our year. Well, I don't suggest those because I think those only provide an artificial numbers boost. I'm not going to be telling you to offer incentives or discounted club dues because I feel that's the same. It just gives you a short bump in numbers, and then you're going to have that reduction back because the dues you charge change. Or you have to end up charging those dues forever. We're going to go back to the basics. We're going to give you some steps on retaining your members and also attracting your members. And one of the goals of this is to get quality members over quantity of members. I know a lot of times, especially we want to think about, oh, I need to get 30 new members in. You know what? If you can hang on to the ones you got and you can add 5 solid Rotarians, that's great for me. You know, I think, and I believe Kenny and your team here would echo that. I'm not going to dig deep in the numbers, but we do need to talk about them. I'm not a big numbers guy. You know, Kenny told you what I do. I feel I'm more on the creative side. I love to have fun on that end of things and tell the story of Rotary and the impact that we make. But I think we got to talk about numbers because we got to be real about it. And so this membership graph is for the past 10 years in your district as of yesterday. So let's pay attention particularly to the last 5 years right here, from 17 to 22, 21. You know, if you're into skiing, that's a pretty nice slope, right? But not so much if we're trying to grow Rotary. You know, if you look here, it's the district has lost an average of 100 Rotarians per year. And, you know, in the last year and this year, likely many of our clubs are going to continue to see the impacts of what COVID has done to membership and people realigning their priorities and things that they're looking to do differently. All right, so this is a different graph, and this is one that some of your district leaders see a little bit more regularly. So right here, we've got the blue line is the actual numbers for the 2021-2022 year. The green dot up here is the new members numbers in order to be net positive for the district for the year. Where we are sitting currently, because I'm in this with you, currently we are sitting at a positive 9 members for the district as of earlier this week. I believe that was the 19th. And the red here, that little diamond shape there, is what the DAG-DB count is. So this seems to be a pretty good track. But if you, these other colors here on the graph are the different years of from the same date. And to go through this quickly, you see here, we're still a little behind on what we need to do to get up to the success track to have a net gain in district membership for the year. But as you see over the last couple of years, you've had some positives, but then once Christmas hits, every club in every district in the United States has a Christmas dip. You know, the membership drops off. It's twice a year when it tends to happen to most clubs. In your all's district, it seems that the dips have been quite frequent after the second half of the year. Last year, I believe your net loss was 148 members as a district. Now, a lot of folks say, hey, you know, that's district numbers. What does that mean? I'm a club president. It doesn't impact me. My club does okay with membership. Well, when you break it down with the number of clubs you all have, that's a net loss of that. You average kind of 1 to 2 members per year that you're losing. So, and that's it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but it does add up over time. It causes a strain on your clubs and on the impacts that you can make. You know, and I show these graphs to be honest with you about the reality of membership trends. This isn't just your district. This is happening across all the other districts that that we see in our zones, and definitely in zone 33. So it isn't to say, oh my gosh, you guys are doing terrible. This is just a reality of what Rotary and Rotary membership is currently looking like. So I want to be real with it, and want you to know, you know, while this is district numbers, the district is made up of your clubs, and membership may have fallen behind as a priority. So I also want to talk about attrition is real. You know, when we look at this, we can gain a couple of members and lose a couple of members and be at a +1 for the year or a -1, or we break even and we didn't lose anybody for the year. But that tends to change, right? You may have gained a couple and you may have lost a couple. What does that look like? You know, for me, I know you're going to hear a lot of things, especially as incoming president. You're going to hear a lot about how important public image is And I understand and believe in the power of public image. And you're going to hear a lot about the foundation and how important it is. And it is hugely important to Rotary and what Rotary does. And I know your clubs are doing great things in the community, and you're going to have pressure to continue to do those things. But I'm here to tell you that if membership isn't the #1 priority in your club, you won't have to worry about public image. You won't have to worry about the Rotary Foundation. You won't have to worry about serving your community, because our clubs are withering away slowly, as you can see by the chart I showed earlier. So we've got to be real and action oriented towards membership. And the old way of doing membership recruitment wasn't working before. And so I promise it isn't going to work now. So we'll get into it. And how do we grow our clubs? Got a chat here from Cynthia Mitchell. Thank you. What do you think accounts for Christmas membership loss? I think from what I understand from some other folks in the zone is it's just a reassessment for a lot of people. Is they'll look at it if they haven't been attending very often, if they haven't been very active. It's kind of one of those moments, right, when we all decide to get in shape for the new year. It becomes one of those things. It may be a budgetary item if their company is paying for it. They may say, hey, we're not going to support doing Rotary anymore. And then they take it away. So those are a couple of reasons. Later, please address the comment, don't fit in your club. I don't remember that. Could you give me you can pop on your audio there, Cynthia, if you can give me a refresher on what I said.
I don't know if it was you or maybe Kenny. There was a comment, something about people, maybe if someone doesn't fit in your club, something about finding another club. I was just wondering what he meant by that. Maybe it was you or
that was on my. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, it's on your bio. So if you want to address it.
Yep. Yeah. What I mean by that is I feel like a lot of time, especially when I was coming up in my Rotary club, it felt like there was a lot of competition for new members with other clubs in my area. And so if somebody in my club had a prospect, they'd bring them to a meeting and they would say, well, this time doesn't quite work for me. They wouldn't suggest for them to go join another Rotary club. They wouldn't give the opportunity to say, oh, well, hey, this club meets for breakfast and this club meets for dinner and this club meets for happy hour. If you can't do a Monday lunch, which is when my club meets. And that's what I mean by that, is that a lot of times clubs tend to want to hold on to those leads and not share them with others if it's not an exact fit for their club. And what I mean by that is that the individual says, oh, your club's too expensive. Oh, your club time doesn't suit my schedule. Or the cast of characters in your club didn't seem very welcoming to me. It doesn't just, if it doesn't fit, let's make sure we try to keep them in the organization and move them to a club that may be a better fit for them, because it's still a good, warm prospect and lead.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And Cynthia, to piggyback on that, Andy's right. So I remember the president's group that Ton and I were a part of, and this gives you guys the opportunity as a group to do the same thing, is to get to know each other, know a little bit about each other's club as you're, having these communications or time together. Because Andy's correct. I think that we want to, we're all competitive in nature, and we want our club to be the best club. So we're fighting over everything, and that includes membership. And so when that happens, sometimes we do have Rotarians or potential prospects who come to the club and they don't fit, or as Andy said, we're a lunch club, but maybe they were looking for a dinner club. Well, most times we are reluctant to share that with one another. But I think, and I'm hoping with this group, that you become close enough that you know a little bit about each other's clubs, that what we were doing as a group, somebody would visit our club and we would hear that comment. And Ton is a dinner club. Well, somebody attended our club and they were looking to, join a dinner club. We would email and make that introduction. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess we need to make sure we keep them in Rotary, maybe not necessarily in our particular club.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think what happens too is that, you may think about that again, the competitive nature comes in, but I know during our year that it came back around. So when we were sending members or potential prospects to the other clubs, they in turn were doing the same thing. So you're building the Rotary membership. And isn't that what we're all about? And, ultimately, shouldn't clubs be doing more projects and stuff together as well? So that would be the goal.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it is competitive. And I think that it's a lot of times we may not get as many potential leads or members, prospects. And so we want to hold on to those. And so it's a mindset shift. Excuse me. It's a mindset shift from scarcity to abundance, right? As we need to take it from, hey, we don't have enough members or prospects, so I've got to hold on to everyone I get. But we need to flip that to, there's plenty of prospects out there. I just have to find the people who are a good fit for my club and my organization. Not to be exclusionary, but it's about them being a good fit based on their schedule, based on their wants and needs and desires for what your club has to offer. That cover it? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move on. Good deal. But again, feel free to pop any questions in the chat. I'm happy to talk through it. All right. So we talked about attrition and how do we grow our clubs? So, it's Rotary clubs are at a crossroads and we have a choice, right? We can not change and continue down the course that we're on and not grow and not impact our communities, or we can take action in order to make our clubs viable and something that gets handed down to future generations to enjoy and serve as we have and the ones before us have. And so in my perspective, it starts with your club not only championing membership, but also championing change. We must be willing to reimagine what Rotary looks like in our clubs and in our communities. And now's the time for a critical look at our clubs. Coming out of COVID, still in COVID, there's great opportunity to really readjust what the club is, who it serves, and what it's doing. So how are we going to encourage your clubs to change? So first up, we got to listen. Okay. A lot of times when we get into leadership roles, we have our own ideas of what we want to do. We also have the historical context of things that we've always done. And those things may not necessarily align anymore with what the membership does. So we've got to listen. And the reason listening is important is I'm assuming we've all been in relationships with other people in our lives, whether that's family, whether that's parents, friends, significant other. We've interacted with other people. And so we know that when one person in a relationship feels unheard, they'll disengage. And they're going to leave and find somebody else who will listen to them and respect their opinion and value their ideas. And so members are no different in our clubs. So my suggestion is to survey, ask really hard questions about your club. And remember that their responses aren't necessarily about you, or they're not about you. It's about solving the problem or issues within the organization, within your club. So start with a simple survey, asking members what they want their Rotary experience to look like. What does that mean? Maybe they don't want to sing songs. Maybe they don't like the golf tournament that you've hosted for 35 years. Maybe they want more networking. Really get to the heart of your membership's desires and move your club in that direction. And it's really important to get feedback from all your members. I know it's easy for people who are really engaged. Any organization has the 80-20 rule where there's 20% of the people that are doing all the work. I feel like in Rotary, sometimes it's the 92-8 rule where it's 8% of the people are doing all the work. But make sure you get insight from those other members, because those less engaged members, because they are going to give you the nuggets that will help get them more engaged, will make them better Rotarians, will make them better champions within your clubs. again, it's those two things. It gets them engaged. It gives them the buy-in to help change the club move forward. And if they've got an idea, allow them the freedom to push it forward. Tools like SurveyMonkey are free and user-friendly. So if you haven't used that, I think if you have Google account, they have forms that you can do on there to do surveys. There's plenty of options out there to be able to to do surveys for your clubs. You also got to be open to change, even though it may be uncomfortable for many. Okay. Got to empower our members to be active, to take the idea that they're sharing with you and bring it to fruition with your support, with other club members' support, especially if they're going to change the club for the better. It gives them the opportunity to shape the club in the image that they want it to be, as a group, as a collective. Excuse me, I want to take a quick drink of water. Thank you. Also, it's a good opportunity when you talk to them to find out what your community needs. Really reassess what's going on in your community and how your club can best serve your community. Find partners to see where your clubs can best fit. Assess the community needs, reassess your service projects, and be a relevant organization in your community. So I love this slide, this image anyway. Change means you got to take a chance, right? Change is never easy for any of us. If I wanted to have a six-pack, I would need to change quite a few things in order to do that. So the same thing happens in our organizations. We've really got to take the chance to make change happen. And again, it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of folks. And so what can you do to do that? As I mentioned, reassess those community projects. I think it's a great opportunity this is a great opportunity to build those collaborative efforts with other organizations. So what do we got to do? We've got to engage. To me, the future of membership begins and ends with the simple word engage. I'm showing a wedding band being placed on a finger here. And in some ways, when a member joins a club, they're committing to a relationship with it. And how we pay attention to members and what we do to make sure that they continue to stay engaged is going to see how long that relationship lasts. So if they aren't engaged, they're not coming back. If you aren't doing anything engaging as a club, you're not going to recruit any new members. And what does engaging look like? As I mentioned, use your survey to guide you. Start new service projects. Partner with other organizations. Think about it. United Way, Rurton's clubs, Lions clubs. Find out things that they're doing that are making a positive impact on the community as a whole and partner with them. It's a great opportunity. Find out what is most needed in our communities. Invite non-Rotarians and family members to serve without an agenda of trying to recruit them. I'm going to say that again. Invite non-Rotarians and family members to serve without an agenda of trying to recruit them. All we're asking is you to build goodwill and better friendships, okay? And the reason engagement is important is because having engaged members in our community makes Rotary relevant in our communities. That makes people want to talk about Rotary, what they're doing, what they're participating in, why they enjoy it, which in turn then makes other people interested in Rotary, which then in turn leads to their potential involvement in Rotary. All right, Jim's asked me a question. To what extent should the membership agree on the definition of change? I think that's going to be varied in any organization, right? I mean, you could say majority rule. The other part of that too is you might lose some folks, which I know this is a membership talk, and that's the last thing we want to do is lose members. However, I think we got to think about the long term. I was explaining to some of the folks on the chat before a lot of you jumped on. My company did a lot of changing in the last 18 months because of what COVID threw at us. just one in particular is we had a 2,800 square foot office with a green screen and a full studio space. And after doing some analysis, it was a nice thing to have, but it wasn't a necessary thing to have, and it wasn't paying for itself. So we made an adjustment. Our team was enjoying working from home and remotely anyway. So we became more of a remote company with a much smaller 200 square foot office space in a co-working area. And so I feel like that wasn't necessarily everybody was 100% on board with it, but we all knew that it was a positive change that we needed to make sure that our organization remained viable with the unsure economic circumstances of the world. And I give you that story because I feel like Rotary clubs need to look and do the same thing. I feel like a lot of us, my club is included, and we're dealing with a lot of these challenges now. And I mean, we had 140 members pre-COVID. Last year, we lost 40. This year, I think we're down 15. And so we're in the process of reshaping things, re-engaging in what we do and serving our community. But it's like turning a battleship. I had a larger club, so getting that club to change its direction has been challenging. And you got to find what the majority of folks want to do and what they want it to look like, and kind of make that happen. So I think it really depends on your club culture, and how willing they are to change and move forward and want to do something for the future. Does that answer your question, Jim? Did I dance around it enough? Anybody have any other questions at this point?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment here on the screen as personally hit me. And what you were saying is, commitment is important in a relationship as well. But I think what you got to remember, as in any relationship, is two-sided. So as you're saying too, it's not necessarily what we want out of the Rotarians or what we gain from another Rotarian, but what you're emphasizing is what can we do to help them, or what do they need? And as any relationship, it's not a one-time fix. Mm-hmm. If, like in your relationship, you got to come back and readjust and keep it active. And it's work on both sides. So I don't think we can just assume that we can bring a Rotarian in and we're done, and expect them to do whatever. I think on our end, we're responsible for our commitment to them as well and what we can do to help them. So I think you're spot on.
Yeah, and I think, thank you for that. And another point, I said to survey your members. Also need to ask what new members want or new prospects are looking to accomplish by joining Rotary. I think helping them understand helps them to get plugged in better. If I'm coming in and I'm looking for networking opportunities, and that's like my primary driver, is I want to meet as many business professionals and shake hands and kiss babies as I can, then try to help me have that experience. Encourage me, hey, go sit at different tables and I'll introduce you to somebody every week, and, try to make that engagement for them what they want it to be. And if that's not necessarily your club's culture, but another club in your area, maybe it's not in your area, maybe it's a neighboring club that's close enough by, but another club that may be a better fit for that because that's more of their organization's feel, refer them. Take them to one of their meetings and introduce them, or, introduce them to, your colleague president in that club and hand them off. There's a lot of opportunity there to make sure that engagement is there for each. And I know larger clubs, it gets hard to do each individual member, but when they come in as newbies, it's good to get a good feel for what they want, that initial buy-in for what they're looking for. Then you can get all the added benefits, and they get all the added benefits of the other pieces of Rotary. During your club conduct exit interviews for, yeah, we've done that. Thank you, Paul, for that question. Paul's question is, did your club conduct exit interview surveys for those leaving? There's been such a mass exodus. We haven't gotten to all of them. A lot of them were Rotarian in name only, I guess. And I hate to put it that way, but they were on the roster, but they hadn't attended anything in forever. And I think a lot of them retired. They were of that age to where it was kind of a, hey, you know what? I did this for work and quasi networking, and they retired. That was a good portion of the ones that I talked to. Others were just reassessing their life values at that point, right? And saying, hey, you know what? I don't have enough time to do other things in my life, and Rotary just isn't that important. And it wasn't a priority for them. And we're going to find that in any organization. And I think, also in workforce right now, that's what people are finding is they're doing people are doing a reassessment of what's important to them and how they value their time. And I feel like Rotary is going to suffer somewhat because of that. All right. Moving forward. So everybody know this guy? Familiar? You might remember the Dose of Keys commercials. He was the most interesting man in the world. Yes, right. So this is our clubs have got to be more interesting, and you got to be like this guy, right? I mean, he's got a story that people can buy into, that people want to be a part of, and that people want to latch onto. And to me, this starts with great programming. And I think a lot of clubs don't look at programming as part of their membership recruitment or retention strategies, but it's a big part of it. We meet regularly. If you're not meeting weekly, you're probably meeting at least a few times a month. And so your programs are part of the reason that people are there. They want to be entertained. They want to be engaged, and they want to have something that's relevant. So good content attracts people. It makes them talk, which attracts more people. I mean, think about the things that are shared and that you read anywhere on social media, or they're forwarded via email, or when you talk to friends and you learn more. I mean, it's that essentially is programming in your life. So what your Rotary clubs need to do is really, really be intentional about programming, evaluate what your programs look like, make sure that they're relevant. Are they inspiring? Are they interesting? Are they fun? There's never been a better opportunity to up your programming game. Get in touch with leaders in your community and have them present on actions they are taking right now. Maybe it's the mayor. Maybe it's a city council member. Maybe it's the whole city council. Maybe it's the board of supervisors. Maybe it's the economic development director for your community. There's a lot of people that are doing a lot of work, and you know them, or you have the connections to get them. Reach out to a senator or congressperson. Go on a field trip to a member's business as your Rotary meeting. Ask Halle Berry to speak and Zoom her in. I'm serious. Think big and ask, because the answer is always going to be no unless you ask. The better your programming, the more engaged your membership's going to be. And if somebody gets Halle Berry on their call, you need to let me know. Okay. I'm coming to that meeting. Another opportunity to attract people, and I think this is going to go to, Wayne made a comment a minute ago. The difficult question is whether to use the feelings of those who leave or those who stay as a basis for change. And you're spot on. It's the crux of any organizational growth is, do we keep doing the things that have made us successful? Do we try something new that may or may not work? And you've got to find the culture for your club that fits and works. And if you want to keep doing what you've done, then I feel like opportunities for clubs are to build another club, start a satellite club. Just try different types of membership options that maybe don't include meals, or maybe it's corporate membership to where a company buys a membership and can have up to 3 people who rotate coming to your meetings. Think about different opportunities in that space. Satellite clubs are a way that I've seen a lot of other districts in our zone grow. If you're not familiar with those, pop a question in the chat. We can talk through those a little bit. I've helped start a couple in 7570. So I've got some background knowledge there, but they're a great opportunity to keep some members engaged if they've got one foot out the door anyway, or recruit new members who may not necessarily fit your time, your schedule, your your due structure, that kind of thing. Gives them an opportunity to be connected to your club, but yet in another satellite type club. Also, as I continue to mention, please don't hold on to members or prospects if they're not a good fit for your org or your club. Please share them with others. We'd rather have them as Rotarians, especially if somebody's vetted them and they're like, hey, they would be a great Rotarian. Make sure you pass them off to other colleagues, because your other club presidents will appreciate the gesture. Okay. Assignments. So what I'd like you to consider doing as you're heading into all the other things that you have to do, and I hear that Tonda had a nice laundry list of things to do for you all to do. I've got another list here that I want to add to that. Establish membership as a priority. It's such a crucial piece to what your Rotary Club is not only going to look like during your presidential year, but what it's going to look like in the future. Recruit a membership team. Find the people who are passionate about bringing other people in. Every club I've ever visited has that person, has one person or a couple of people who are always bringing somebody new in. That person loves Rotary for some reason, right? We all love Rotary, or we wouldn't be here. But that person who's bringing multiple people in throughout the course of a Rotary year to visit or join or that kind of thing, they love bringing people to Rotary. Maybe it's whatever their reason is. Maybe it's the networking piece. Maybe it's the ability to bring other people into the service aspect. Recruit them to be part of your membership team and give them some support of some other people to help boost it, because you're not going to have time to do it all yourself as a PE or a president. I promise you. Survey your membership about change and be willing and open to new ideas and try them out. Maybe you don't have to, I'm not talking rehash your whole club, but if there's one thing that you want to do, try a new thing. And if it doesn't quite work, but it was pretty good, adjust and continue to move forward. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for clubs to kind of shift what they've been doing. And another piece of this, the last point I'll make, is do a membership plan with your presidential chain. Okay. A lot of times we get into these thought processes of, well, this is my year and this is what I've got to do. Membership isn't just about your year. Membership is about every year going forward. So the better connected that the presidential thread can be about a membership plan and going forward and adjusting it each year, the more likely your organization, your club, is going to have that opportunity to grow membership, because there's a plan in place that's going to move forward year after year and not change. Other than that, that's what I got.
Okay.
Thoughts or questions?
I have two to give these guys time to think as well. Thank you, Andy, for doing that. I appreciate you again spending the time with us today. Two questions I have real quick. And guys, I really want y'all to jump in here too. So as you looked on the presentation you gave, you had that graph, obviously, of everything plummeting as far as membership.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as most of you know, I'm a wealth advisor working in the financial industry. If people saw their portfolios doing that, wouldn't they be panicking? If your 401k, your investments were plummeting just like that, and would you not take a plan or have a plan in action? So that question to you is, what are some ideas or suggestions that clubs, if they're in that mode now, would you suggest that they do? And then lastly, because you were a past president, one thing that we've asked every presenter is, if you had the opportunity to be a president again, what would you do different, or what would words of wisdom that you would give this group as they plan their year?
Thank you for that. I'll start with the last one, and I'll probably get you to repeat the first question so I can give you a better answer there. So what would I do, or advice I would give if I was president again? Try to do less. And what I mean by that is I think I set out too many goals that wound up not really attaining most of them. So for me, it would have been focus on 1 to 2, maybe 3 things that I wanted to try to accomplish in a Rotary year. And also to share that vision with other people and not try to do it on my own.
Point. In the first question, I basically said, if you looked at a graph, and one thing that we've strived to do as well in this training is not to focus too much on the numbers, but the numbers are what they are.
Yep.
And we have to show that so that you know that you're aware of it. I think what Jim was trying to say in his introduction is because we're so comfortable in our own club, we don't even realize the attrition that we're facing, or the impact that it's having. It's like you look around, somebody's not there, it's okay, but we're doing okay. But it is telling what we're facing, and I think a lot of clubs are in that situation. So I guess to me, when you look at that, we need to do something now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the question I would have, what action items can they take now that you would recommend that they start considering as club presidents, because a lot of our clubs are probably in that situation?
I'm going to go back to the survey. And the reason I keep harping on the survey piece is, to me, it shows action. And also, I just want to give you feedback from the members that you already have. Okay. And I'm assuming most of us are in business or in some sort of something in that space or organization. It's a lot easier to retain a client once you got them. It's really hard to get a new client. At least that's been my experience in business anyway. And when I say client in this instance, I'm referring to members. So we've got a member, you've got them, right? They're paying their dues. They're quasi coming to meetings. They're sometimes serving, but you've got them as a member. It's a heck of a lot easier to try to retain them oftentimes than it is to go out and bring somebody else in and educate them on what Rotary is and try to get them excited about it and that kind of thing. So I think the survey gives you that opportunity to kind of put your finger in the leak for a moment, right? And get an opportunity to hear what your members are missing out on, what they were hoping from the experience that they're not getting, in order to maybe shift what your club's doing.
Okay, question I would have for anybody on the call here: does your club, or have you participated in a survey with your club?
And we did at Bon Air. Chris Gorman has been a very, very effective president for us. Chris is as a younger member, but I think when he began his term, he wanted to bring about some change, but he didn't want to do it unilaterally. And so we did a survey and had good participation, reported back. It supported some of the changes he wanted to make. And so I think he had some consensus. So I think and he did just a basic survey monkey, as I remember.
Got a question in the chat from Paul. Actually, 2 questions from Paul, but they're around the same topic. All right. What did you include in your elevator speech, and what should you avoid in your elevator speech? I think it goes back to what Kenny said earlier, is you can talk about your why. For me, I joined Rotary for networking, and I joined the biggest club because my business was just starting. And I was like, well, there's 160 members here. That's 160 prospects for work. And that was what it was for me to start with. But once I got involved, it became more than that. It became It became about the service we do in the community. It became about the relationships I build through service with my fellow club members. You know, it became about building houses for widows in Kenya and digging and raising funds to get a well dug for them. You know, those are the things that really are kind of part of my elevator pitch. But I think it goes back to your reason. Everybody's got an individual reason, and that's why you should put that in your elevator pitch to a prospect. What should you avoid? This is probably going to be unpopular. I almost left Rotary for a full year because they kept talking about polio. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, for me, I was like, is that still a thing? I mean, you know, and that's me being naive, but I've been in Rotary for 8 years now. So I was in my mid to late 30s when I joined, and they're talking about polio, and they kept harping on polio and polio and polio. I'm like, if this is what all this organization is about, that's great. That's not where I'm at. So I think you've got to really understand who you're talking to and what they want to get out of it. But for me, as you know, somebody who fortunately polio wasn't a factor for in my life, it was irrelevant as a membership driver for me. I do support the foundation. I do donate to polio every year. So
just that tomorrow is World Polio Day.
What's that?
Tomorrow is World Polio Day.
Right.
So.
And, you know, honestly, what's funny about that is less than 2 years later, I hosted a World Polio Day event. I mean, so I was able to buy into it, but I mean, for me, it was a turnoff for a while until I got more involved in other things. And then I got to see, oh, okay, this is where Rotary plays a part in this polio initiative. So it can change. For me, of somebody in my age, getting that right out of the gate wasn't a selling point for me.
That's why we have 6 or 7 avenues of service. So we don't get focused on one.
Yep.
And so unfortunately, sometimes that's what we do, though. We do get focused on one instead of keeping it open to all 6 or 7.
Yes, sir.
You know, I've always felt that, you know, those kinds of things have something to do with membership and attrition. And this is part of education, as I see it. I always thought that might have something to do with membership and attrition. For example, if you're going into a club, if that club believes in the foundation, and if you don't find that out from the beginning, and you find out a little later that they are gung-ho about the foundation, that might be a cause for your leaving. So I think to a large extent that we definitely need to focus on, make sure that education is a part of our approach to membership and attrition. There are a couple of other little things that kind of fit into that same category. And one has to do in terms of attrition that nobody talks about. I don't hear people talk about this, and I want to know if you've seen any data on it, Andy. And that is the relationship between attrition, or let's say between attrition and dues. Now, this is what I mean. This is a little different. There are some people, as quietly as it's kept, who leave Rotary after their companies no longer pay their dues. Mm-hmm. And so those people who are still remain in Rotary, a lot of them remain there as long as their companies pay the dues. Have you seen any data or heard any conversation in regard to that?
I think that's a great point, and I would agree with you. I can't tell you that I've seen any data or information that's been put out on that topic. You know, but I know we've seen that, right? Just in our club is, hey, you know what? My company's not paying for this anymore, so I'm not going to continue on. And so there's a couple of pieces of that, right? Is the values alignment isn't quite there with Rotary and that individual, or maybe the dues are too much for that individual to burden. So I think there's a couple of factors behind that. If they really bought into the organization and what your club is doing, they may be willing to have a conversation with somebody and say, hey, my company's not going to pay for this anymore, but I want to stay involved. What can I do? But if they just quit, maybe they weren't necessarily as engaged or engaged in the organization as we thought they were. But no, to answer your question shortly, no.
One other thing I think that people too often equate change or the lack thereof, they tend to relate that to age. I think that is totally a misconception, particularly with new presidents coming in. There's a possibility that if they find an older champion, they have more of an opportunity of getting the change that they want.
Yep.
And that desire to change has nothing to do with age.
Yep, I agree with that, and I think it's I don't think that that's a number. I think that's a mindset, and so I 100% agree with you that those relationships are important. I know during my presidential year, being in a larger club, I spent the previous 2 years getting to my club early because there was a group of about 10 guys, old school guys who'd been in the club for 40 plus years, who got there at 11 o'clock to have coffee and catch up. And I was like, well, I got to know these guys, right? Because they've been here forever. They know they know where the bodies are hid, so they know all the secrets. And so I got to know them, and they became my biggest champions during my presidential year. And I mean, anytime I wanted to do anything or suggest new ideas, I wouldn't necessarily run it past them, but say, hey, I'm going to try this out. And because I'd built that rapport, they gave me a green light, and they'd say, I don't want to not sit with my friends during lunch. Okay, you can sit with your friends during lunch, but once lunch is over, you got to go move to a different table because we're going to do this activity and you're going to meet somebody new today. Okay, I'll try that. Just mixing it up on them, but I had to have that relationship with them first. So, back to Kenny's question earlier, I would add that to a thing that you should try to do in the next year is build some relationships with members of the club. People who've been there for a while, or people who are really engaged, or, pretty much anybody. Make sure you know who they are and why they're there and what they're coming for, and building those relationships is vitally key.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. A couple other points I wanted to make on Jim's membership point there, as far as the dues were concerned. I do think that, back to the polio piece, is some of the narratives that can still be out there that impact membership. Maybe it's retention or it's recruitment. The polio thing, I think, is one that's not a bad thing. I just think that it gets kind of that's all they do, right? They do polio and that's it. Two other ones that I've heard that are, you got to go weekly. It's mandatory. You can't miss a meeting. And I get that frequently. Oh, I can't do every week. Well, you don't have to do every week. We don't have requirements and blah, blah, blah. Are you sure? I thought that was remember, you had to come every week. No, you don't have to come every week. And then the other one is, they still allow women, or do they allow women? And, and my retort to that is, okay, if you met my mother, she would have my head if I was in an organization that didn't allow women. So, but those are pieces that are still floating out there that we have to deal with as Rotarians in retaining and recruiting members. So, Wayne, could you address virtual membership? COVID caused our club to have Zoom meetings, and potential members may find that appealing. So, yeah, I think that every club's got to find what fits. Currently, our club offers both in-person and virtual. So we're doing kind of a hybrid format meeting, and they haven't changed the dues. I'm not on the board anymore, but the board decided at this point they're not going to change the dues. So if you want to come in person, you can come in person and you can have your meal and that kind of thing. If you want to attend via Zoom, your dues are helping to fund the technology that we had to purchase to make it a good produced Zoom meeting. So that's kind of how our clubs handled it. But I've seen other clubs who said, well, if you're going to be virtual, then your dues are X.
Okay.
Other questions, thoughts, or anecdotal jokes?
Hey, Andy.
Hey.
Of late, there is a lot of stress on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. How do you see that in relation to membership and, yeah, what's your take in general on that?
Well, I think it's vital to have the organization grow as a whole. I feel like that there are going to be opportunities to where clubs or individuals that are prospects may not feel comfortable with the club options that they have, and those are opportunities to where again, satellite clubs or championing new club formation can help. I do feel like there's that. I know my club is, I think the last time I looked at the numbers, we are less than 10% female. I mean, that was a big drop for us in the last 18 months, because we had a pretty significant female reduction in membership. And we're pale, male, frail, and stale. I mean, that's my Rotary club. So we're trying different things. We've brought in some, we've actually consulted with a diversity, equity, inclusion person from JMU on how to make some change in our organization to make it more attractive to others. So I think each club has a duty to do that, because I feel like it needs to be each club needs to be representative of our communities, and our communities aren't just a bunch of old white guys, and we need to address that. I really feel like that's the opportunity for our organizations to grow and to do more in our communities, is by addressing those issues, but they're not easy issues to address.
Anything else, guys? I know somebody's got to have a burning question or. And question I asked Mickey about the survey. He's going to look to see if he can find that survey that his club used so that we could share with the group. Because as we've indicated before, with this group of presidents, we want you to be able to share things and help one another. So, so thank you, Mickey, for taking a look for that, or looking for that.
And you can do the results as a club meeting. Once you do the survey and get all the data back, have a club meeting about it. Go over it. Gives you opportunity for everybody to talk through it, to say, hey, here's what we see. Here's what you all are saying about this club.
Wow, that's a big thing to do, because oftentimes we do those surveys, but then the board meets or whatever, and it's never really shared, or you just, so what's the point of doing it? And it becomes their survey then.
Yep.
Kenny, can I make sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll wait.
Oh, I just wanted to make a suggestion as well. So one of the things we did at the end of my term last year is that we did a strategic planning meeting as a meeting. And I got these Post-its and put them up all over the wall. And we had 4 topics that the board had decided were going to be our main topics. And that really got the buy-in of everyone. You will quickly find that people have a lot of opinions. So you have to kind of navigate that, but that's also a good way. And I feel like a membership tool, because then you can really kind of figure out where everyone is and what everyone's pulse is on certain topics through a meeting. And we're still using that strategic plan now. We will probably keep working on it, and I'll continue to develop into my new presidential year next year, but just a suggestion or something that came to mind as you all were talking.
So one thought I had, and I'm picking up things as we go along here in these sessions, and probably some things that are obvious to the rest of you, but I'm a little slower. But building on what we covered, I guess, in public image, and thanks to Andy for this morning, it seems like to me, you know, if we can continue to be interesting, if we can be fun, and we can be impactful, then we've got a chance. So one of the things I did based on public image is I went back and I actually learned how to post a story on our website. And I think by accident, I probably posted it on the district page first. But anyway, regardless of that, I added up, you know, our club is smaller now, but I added up the grants that we had made to organizations through the annual grant process, and then the grant we picked up through the district process. And so I think, you know, when you think about the impact we had dollar-wise and numbers of organizations, you know, our small club is still having a good impact. So I think you can take a lot of pride in what you're doing, even though you're smaller. And I think that, you know, if we're proud of something we're affiliated with, we're less likely to drop it. So as leaders, I think we have to continue to remind our club members how much impact we're actually having. And so that's probably one of my big takeaways from this morning and the last couple of weeks.
Thanks, Mickey. And I think going back to what you just said, as far as even a classification talks or whatever, you know, sometimes you need to remind your club members of that, because oftentimes we forget. Good point.
Can I just say, oh, sorry, finish up, Kenny.
No, go ahead, Tonda.
I was just going to say, Mickey, what you just said just makes my heart happy, because y'all are a great club and it's good that y'all have a lot to be proud of. So
one more thing I wanted to share with you really quickly is about user experience. Okay. And we've all had it. And is if you're going to say your club is fun, you damn well better be fun. Okay. and what I mean by that is we've all had the experience, right? Is we see the advertisement for the Big Mac, and then we get the Big Mac, and this is from the most attractive angle. It's not quite the same. And so when you're going through the process of membership and recruitment, and even for your existing members, you got to give them the experience that you're promising. The worst thing you can do is promise all this greatness and all this fun, and it's the complete opposite of the experience that they have. So